Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I love waving through the screen. So good morning. Feel free to wave back at me. I'm especially excited about Kidquake today. My name is Ileana Pulu, and it's my honor to be your MC for the morning. I'm a librarian at the San Francisco Public Library, and lately I've been working with some really awesome authors, crafters, and teenagers who like STEM, not all at the same time, for people to watch on YouTube. But honestly, it doesn't get more fun than learning about an up close and personal author like the one we have today. She's going to share a bunch about her inspiration, her books, and more. So sit back, settle into your seats, take a deep breath with me, and pay close attention. Without further ado, let me introduce our first author. Meera Sriram grew up in India and moved to the US in 1999. An electrical engineer in the past, she now enjoys writing for children, leading early literacy initiatives and advocating for diverse bookshelves. Meera is the author of the picture books The Yellow Suitcase, A Gift for Amma, and the upcoming title Between Two Worlds. She has also co-authored several kids' books in India. Meera believes in the transformative power of stories and likes to write about people, places, and experiences less visible in children's literature. For more information about Meera, please visit her website, meerasriram.com. Clap with me as we welcome Meera.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ileana, for that lovely introduction. Thank you, Kidquake, for having me. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here. And special thanks to everyone who has worked so hard to put this together for all of us. It's truly amazing to be here connecting with all you wonderful kids. And I hope wherever you are safe and well. So let's get started. I am a children's writer. I write for kids like you. And I'm so excited to be sharing a little bit about my journey as a writer, how I write books, why I write, what I write, and also to be giving a sneak peek of my newest book, A Gift for Amma Market Day in India, that came out in August of this year. So literally like less than a couple of months. And in fact, you guys are one of the earliest groups of kids to be getting the sneak peek. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm hoping you are too. Okay, so my name is Meera Sriram and I write books for kids. Next. So we're going to be talking about three things. And I'm going to be sharing about what I write, why I write, and how I write books for kids. And hopefully at the end of this, you will be inspired to write your own stories, but you also get an idea about what it is to be an author. How do authors work? How do writers work? So what do I write? I write picture books. So A Gift for Amma is the book that just came out. And before that, my first book, The Yellow Suitcase, came out. So The Yellow Suitcase is about a little girl who has just lost her dear grandmother and she's terribly missing her grandma. But in the end, she finds a way to celebrate her relationship with her grandmother and to remember her grandmother with some really sweet memories, okay? The books that you see at the bottom are books that are published in India. So I was born and raised in a country called India in the continent of Asia, all the way across the world, right? The continent of Asia, there's a country called India. And I grew up there. So when I started writing, I wanted to write for children in India. So those are the books that were published in India with another friend that I co-authored. And Yellow Suitcase and Gift for Amma are the books that are published in the US. Next. Okay. One of the questions that I get asked all the time when I meet kids, lovely kids like you, is that You write picture books, but what are your favorite picture books? And usually that's how I am. Oh my gosh, I have so many favorite picture books. How do I pick them? But then next, I come up with some of my favorite authors, right? And a secret, I keep changing this slide now and then. But for today, one of my favorite authors is Jacqueline Woodson. She has been such a great inspiration for me as a writer, and her stories have been so instrumental in what I have chosen to write, the stories that I've wanted to write. And I love her book, The Day You Begin, Show Away, Sweet, Sweet Memory, The Other Side. So those are some of her books that I love. I also like the books of Alan Say and Patricia Polocco. I think they are such great, wonderful storytellers. And I also like books by Ezra Jack Keats, Eric Carle, Eve Bunting, Laura Seeger. So again, I'm sure most of you have heard of them, read their books, or maybe they are your favorites too, right? So these are some of my favorite authors and the books. Next. Why do I write picture books, right? So, like I said, I grew up in India. I grew up in a city called Chennai in India, and I moved to the US as an adult. But growing up, I did not have picture books. I'd never seen a picture book before. And only when I became a mother, when I had my own kids, did I start reading picture books. So my kids and I were reading a ton of board books and picture books, and I fell in love with picture books, particularly. I was so fascinated by them, and we were enjoying all these books. But slowly, I started noticing that we were not seeing characters or people in the books who looked like us, like literally, who looked like me or my kids. And I also started realizing that some of our experiences, right? When I say our experiences, my family's experience, for instance, was across cultures. We were traveling back and forth between India, where I grew up, where we still have family and friends, and we have such a wonderful community here in California. So some of these are experiences that are unique to us and people like us who are growing up across continents, across countries and cultures. And I started realizing that those experiences were not included in the stories that we were reading. So I actually quit my job and decided I wanted to write for children. And I wanted to create books that were mirrors to kids like my own, where they could see their stories reflected in the pages of the books. And I also wanted these books to be windows to people whose experience did not match ours. So what we call as book mirrors and book windows. So that's the reason I started writing picture books. Next. Like I just told you, I did not grow up reading picture books, and let alone dreaming about writing. Oh, not in my wildest dreams. I never thought I would become a writer. I was an electrical engineer. I used to write programs. I used to code to design these electronic chips that you're seeing right there. But then I decided to follow my heart. I wanted to change something in what kids were reading. And then I started writing. And now I get to meet wonderful kids like you every day as an author. But next slide. This was not easy at all. From an electrical engineer to a children's author. That was a huge shift. But I decided I was going to work hard and put those stories out there. So how did I do this? Every time I had an idea, I started letting it simmer in my head, and I would build these stories inside my head first. And sometimes I would carry a notebook where I would write these ideas, maybe this or that, or whatever I see, whatever I hear. If something inspires me, then a light bulb goes in my head and I would make a note of it. And then I would start putting it down on paper or on my computer. Once I have a story, right, a plot with characters, they would just come alive in my head and I would start writing them. So I would write these stories. I would type out these stories first, right? That's my draft, my earliest drafts of the story. Then I would take it to really smart and talented writers who also write picture books just like me. And they would give me feedback on how to get my writing better, how to get my stories more real, more fun, more engaging. And then they would point out all the places that I could do better, all the mistakes where they did not understand anything. And I would start revising them. So, revising is fixing my mistakes, making it better, getting it into a better shape. And I would do that over and over again. Because remember, I followed my heart. Now that was the time to work harder. So I would revise them over and over for like months, sometimes even years. And then I would have a very polished manuscript, which means now you see the number of mistakes, not as many, right? So now I know that it is ready to share it with the world. I would take it to an editor who likes my story and who is ready to put it out into the world. Then we would work with an illustrator or an artist who does all the beautiful, gorgeous pictures and picture books. And we would make sure that everyone has access to the books. They are in the libraries, they're in the bookstores. And then one day the book goes out, and then I get to meet you all and talk about it. That's the fun part of it. But next slide. Like I said, it was not easy, but I was determined to do it. I started writing those early drafts, revising them over years. I brought this with me here today to show you all. You see that? Sometimes a story would take this many revisions, but the important thing is to stay on course, to keep at it, to not give up on our dream, right? And then when it's polished and it's ready, it becomes a book that we can actually hold and enjoy. Next slide. So today we have a gift for Amma, Market Day in India, my brand new book that stepped out into the world in August of this year. So what inspired this book? Like I said, I grew up in a city called Chennai in southern India. And I remember as a kid going to these markets, these street markets or outdoor markets. And it was a big part of my life. I would often go with my sister or my mother, or sometimes I would quickly run to the market myself to pick up something for our home or family. And I would see all these toys, clothing, snacks, street foods, fruits, vegetables, you name it, it had everything. It was very chaotic, it was loud, it was noisy. It's also very hot in India, but it was also very, very engaging, very colorful. And it was, like I said, a big part of my childhood. And as an adult living here, yes, we do go to the farmers markets, but I also miss the special experience that I had going to these street markets in India. And one day I decided, it would be great for the kids to see how markets are around the world, in a different part of the world. How do kids go to the market there? And it is also a colors book because, like I said, the markets were teeming with so many bright, gorgeous colors. And I decided to do a colors book, but set at the market in India about, and the story is about a little girl who's trying to pick out the perfect gift for her mother. So today I am very, very excited to give you a teaser, a small sneak peek of the book. We will read a couple of pages and hopefully you will get your hands on the book and you will find out the surprise ending, which is what the girl ends up picking out for her mother. Next slide. So here are a couple of pages from the book. The book is called A Gift for Amma, Market Day in India. It is written by me, Meera Sriram, and it is illustrated so beautifully by a Spain-based illustrator called Mariona Cabasa. And the people who made the book, who actually printed the book, edited the book, and put it out in the world are called the publishers, and the publisher of this book is Barefoot Books. So, a gift for Amma. Are you all ready? We read 2 pages, and hopefully, like I said, you will get to find out the ending when you get to read this book fully. A gift for Amma. The sun grows bright. The street is busy. It's market day in town. I count my money and dash outside to find a treasure for Amma. So you see the little girl there? She is getting out into the street to the very beautiful, colorful, busy, bustling market street to pick out a special gift for her mother. Next slide. I'm actually going to show you the book here because saffron orange strands in tiny scoops. Would Amma like to season rice? Orange marigolds swing over doors. Swish, swish. Could I make her a garland? Oh, I can see it better now on the screen. So you can see the first color that she comes across is saffron, orange, a shade of orange. And she's wondering if she should pick the tiny scoops of saffron spice for Amma to season the rice, or if she should go with the orange marigold flowers to make her mother a garland. So then the little girl wanders around the market, going through many different colors like indigo blue and lotus pink and peacock green and pigeon gray and charcoal black and terracotta brown until she finds the perfect, most special gift for her dear mother. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you get to read the full story someday.
That was amazing. Oh, thank you so much, Meera. Super stellar. We do have a couple of questions from Mrs. Wong's second grade classroom at Gordon J. Lau Elementary in San Francisco. And we're going to go with, do you have a special place in your house where you write?
I write mostly by the window, any window. I love the sun. The sun really lifts my spirits and gets my creative juices going. So I usually find a spot by the window in any room and I let the sun fall on me. I soak it in and I write.
Great. And one more question. What do you like best about shopping in an Indian market?
That's a very hard question. I love the street foods, the snacks. They are so colorful and so delicious. I like an ice cream called kulfi that they sell on the street. I like the spicy foods that they sell on the street. So I love the snacks on the street.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I think that we all really appreciate your story and what you shared. So thank you so much. And I think we're ready to do something now. So I'd like to introduce our first activity leader, Florencia Milito, who's going to help everybody create something. Florencia Milito is a writer and translator whose work has appeared in Ziza, Indiana Review, Catamaran, Quiet Lightning, Latina Struggles and Protests in 21st Century USA, and Ninth Letter, among others. That's a lot, you guys. She has worked with California poets in the schools for years. Her bilingual book of poetry, Itu Zango, Exiles and Reveries, is forthcoming from Nomadic Press. So let's welcome Florencia with a little bit of seated movement and try to do the snake. Let's try to bring her in. All right. Welcome.
I am so happy to be here with all of you. I hope everybody is enjoying the amazing, story from Meera. Um, so I want to start because we've been listening for a while. I want you guys to first start out by doing a little bit of shaking. Shaking. Let's shake our right arm a little bit and shake our left arm a little bit. And shake our right leg if we can. I know we're sitting, but and shake our left leg a little bit. Okay. And maybe just stretch a little bit. Stretch a little bit. Okay. I am a poet. The first poem that I wrote after I came to this country and before I knew any English. So it was written in Spanish and I was 9, which is a little bit older than I think most of you. So what I want to begin with is, Meera's book is about this little girl who goes to the market in India to try to find, a beautiful magic object for her mother. And I want you to think about an object that you have that is special to you. And it may be an object that you found at a flea market or at a farmer's market, or maybe you don't know where it came from, but it's an object that is very special to you. And you don't have to have it with you right now. We're just going to use our imagination. So I want you to close your eyes because it's much easier to imagine when we close our eyes. And I'm going to ask you to take 3 deep breaths because it's also much easier to imagine when we're more relaxed. So close your eyes and we're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. In through our nose and out through our mouth. So let's try to take 3 big breaths. Okay, and now you're going to close your eyes. And I want you to think about an object that is very special to you. And I'm going to ask you some questions about the object. And you just have to think about it in your head. So let's start with, what does the object look like? What color is it? Is it green? Is it pink? Is it purple? Does it have stripes? Does it have polka dots? What about its shape? Is it a triangle? Is it a square? Is it a star? So close your eyes and really try to see your object. And then let's think about, what about if you could hold it in your hands? What would this object feel like? Would it be smooth? Would it be rough? Does it feel cold, like an ice cube? Or does it feel warm? What does it really feel like? So think a little bit about that. See if any words come to mind. What about if you were to hold up your object? What does it smell like? Does it have a strong smell like gasoline? Does it smell like jasmine or eucalyptus? Does it smell like dirt? What does it smell like? What about if you were to hold up your object to your ear, or if you were to shake it? Does it make a sound? Is it a big sound? Is it a quiet sound? What kind of sound does your object make if it makes a sound? And then finally, I want you to think about tasting your object, right? And your object might be something that we eat, right? And we only want to put things that we eat in our mouths. So if it's something that we eat, you can think about, is it salty? Is it bitter? Is it sweet? What does it really taste like? But if it's an object that we don't put in our mouths, you might want to not put it in your mouth, but you're going to imagine maybe what it would taste like in your imagination. if you had to give it a taste? Okay. So I want you to hold on to this image of your object, because this is the kind of, you're going to use some of this when you actually write a poem. In poetry, we paint a picture with words. I know for some of you, you probably have a lot of experience writing poems, and you have heard poems. And for some of you, you've never maybe have written a poem before, but all of you have drawn pictures, with scented markers or with crayons. And so I want you to think about writing a poem. And when we write a poem, instead of using markers or colored pencils or watercolors, we're using words, so that our reader really sees what we're writing about. And here are some examples of some words that really help us, right? Picture in our mind, right? So colors, right? In Meera's book, there were so many colors, and the colors were in the pictures, but they're also in the language, right? And so the color red, if you hear the word red or blue or purple and you close your eyes, you can really imagine. Or cinnamon. We can think of the color, but we can also think of the smell and the taste, that it's a little sweet, and it's also maybe a little bit of bitter. Or buzzing, which is the sound the bees make, right? Or sour, the taste of pickles. Or slimy, when you think about a salamander. Or roar, which is a great word with the R sounds, right? For a big sound of a lion, right? Or some other object that makes like a big sound. Or jasmine, which is one of my favorite scents. Or icy, which is a word that can describe, if you've ever held an ice cube, it can be so, so cold that it's almost painful. The other thing that I love about poetry is that you can break the rules, right? If you've done writing in classes, sometimes a teacher will teach you about, you have to start with capital letters and you have to end with a period and you need to write with complete sentences. Well, those rules don't exist in poetry. In poetry, you are really playing with language, right? And so this poet decided that she wanted to arrange the words on the page to make it look like a hand. And this other poet, E. Cummings, was writing about a leaf falling. And so he wrote a really, really, really skinny poem on the page. So that's one of the great things about poetry, is that really you're always breaking rules. Okay. So I'm gonna introduce you to the short poem by a great poet, Mexican-American poet from California. He was from California and he wrote in both Spanish and English. And this is a poem about a blank white page. So he also wrote about an object that was magical to him. In this case, it was the white page. A blank white page is a meadow after a snowfall that a poem hopes to cross. So let's hear it one more time. A blank white page is a meadow after a snowfall that a poem hopes to cross. And so he's comparing the blank page, the object, to a meadow, right? And and a meadow after it has snowed, after a snowfall. So both things, right? The blank page is white, and so is the meadow after the snowfall. The white page doesn't have any writing on it yet, right? So there's a sense that it seems to extend on forever, like the meadow, because there's nothing on it. There's a quietness, I think, to the white page, right? Because there's no writing, there are no words on it. The same way that in a meadow, just after a snowfall, You have, before anybody has walked on it, there are no footprints. And there's a quiet, there's a stillness often right after it snows. And if you've ever lived in a place where it snows, you know that. And then after he makes this comparison, he tells us something else about the object. He says that a poem hopes to cross. So he's imagining writing a poem on the page, and he's comparing that poem on the page to maybe someone walking across the meadow, right? And that surprises us, right? This comparison. And he's telling us something about why a blank white page is important to him. Okay. So now I'm gonna want you to try to do this. And if you have paper and pencil, you can jot down some words. And if you have somebody near you, maybe you can say the poem to them. Or if not, you can just think of it in your head, right? Because we're just kind of practicing, kind of trying to understand the process. And the title, your object is going to be the title of your poem. And then you're going to say, if you want to write a poem like Alarcón, you're going to say, is a, and then you're going to tell us, what is it like? So think about, what can you compare your object to? What else is it like? He compared his object, his white pages, to a meadow. Well, what does your object remind you of? And then he says that, right? And he tells us something surprising about his object, something that really surprises us as a reader. So think about your object and think about what you can say about your object that can surprise your reader, right? Okay. And I tried this myself, and I wrote a short poem like Alarcón, and my poem is called Persimmon. And persimmons, when I go, now I haven't gone in a while because of the quarantine, but I used to go to the farmer's market all the time in San Francisco, in my neighborhood in the Sunset. And one of my favorite things to get at the market were persimmons. Persimmon is a small orange sun that glows in winter. And so when I think about persimmons, the things that strikes me the most about them is their orange color, the brightness of that color. And they're also small, right? And round. So to me, they reminded me of a small orange sun. And I also thought about a road trip I took once, and it was a great day, and I saw a persimmon tree that didn't have any leaves on it, just the persimmons hanging on the tree, and it was a great day. And those persimmon trees seemed to light up everything. So I have that glows in winter, right? Because I'm thinking of the fruits as something that makes, that is lighting up, right? Everything around it. Okay. And so the final poem that I want to give you is, this is some work I did with kids at a public school in San Francisco some years ago. And they were a little bit older, they were second graders. And I know some of you are in second grade. So I want to give you this example. I asked them to write about an object that was special to them. And I asked them to make a comparison, to tell me what the object was like, and also to ask a question about the object. And this little boy wrote a poem that I think is quite interesting. So I'm going to read it to you because maybe it will inspire you to write your own. The Hourglass. The hourglass sand falls into the dark universe like the stars. Spick, speck, spick, speck, spick, seconds go by. As sand falls down times. Up the sand is down, spick, speck, spick. Why does it tell time and not beauty? Punch in some color and you have the hourglass in town. And what I love about this poem, there's so much that I love about it, but I love the comparison that he makes of the sand, of the white sand falling down the hourglass to, you know, if you see a night sky, right? And you see the speckles off in the distance, right? So that was a great comparison. And I love the sounds. He's used a lot of sounds in this poem. Spick, speck, spick, speck, spick, seconds go by, right? And then he had this really surprising, interesting question. Why does it tell time and not beauty? And that was very interesting to me as well. So I hope this has inspired you to try writing your own poems or to, and if you're just beginning to write, you can also tell your poems. My kids began telling me their poems even before they could write them down. And the last slide that I want to show you is a list of words, of amazing words that you might want to use in your poems. Of course, you don't have to use any of those words, but if it's helpful, these are just a fun list of words that you might want to use when you try to write a poem. So, and also the example from Alarcón with the title, your object, what is it like, and what is something surprising to say about it? So, what is it like, that, what is something surprising to say about it? Okay, I hope you have fun writing your poems.
Oh, poetry is such a fantastic method to practice and do. Thank you so much, Florencia. It's been so great to be the MC this morning, but now it's time to go. So don't forget to use your Scholar card, which is your very own SFPL library card that gives you all the access to the books, poetry, magazines, music that you can just consume. Check out the library's website, www.sfpl.org, for just more awesomeness. And thank you for joining us today for Kidquake. Bye.